Welcome you to yet another week for us to converge as citizens of this great country to continue to push conversations that would help us make our country better. My name is Yagazi Obiwanne Ozalo.
And I am Chioma Onwasamba. Good morning, our darling parliamentarians.
Good morning, Choma. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be
You've been
back.
missed. Parliamentarians have asked about you, and some have sent in warm messages to you since the head of the passing of your father. Welcome back. Thank you for being strong.
And it's good to be back. And thank you for even holding down for us here at the Urban Parliament.
All right. So this morning on the Urban Parliament, we return to a conversation we had last week. It was a town hall conversation at the time when this news broke. Brought it to parliamentarians and heard your thoughts about it. It's now been christened the Gbaja-gate scandal. So yes, the controversy involving the chief of staff to the president, Femi Bajabiamila, and a certain Adeni Adeyemi, who prides himself as the Director General of the Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council and the Presidential Economic Advisory Council. It has taken several turns, but in case you missed it last week, there's been, growing concerns when the news made it that a certain Adeyemi Adeni operated an office at the Federal Secretariat in Abuja, an office that recruited about 300 civil servants thereabout from the Accountant General's office, or was, given that allocation. The agency secured the budget in the 2026 Appropriation Act. But then the presidency says that particular office or council that Adeyemi leads is fictitious. So yeah, there's been a lot of back and forth regarding that. Deyemi himself has come out to accuse President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's chief of staff Femi Bajabiamila of appointing him. Femi Bajabiamila denies that. Deyemi alleged that Bajabiamila demanded a 48% cut out of a $27.4 billion grant that was supposed to come to the council, and took 400 million from him in bribes, and an additional 200 million was still supposed to go to the chief of staff to the president through a proxy door. Presidency stance is that Bajibia Miller and the presidency are not involved in whatever Adeni claims, disowning the agency entirely and branding Ademi as an impostor and a con artist. The Nigerian government filed an eight-count charge of forgery and impersonation against Adeyemi at the Federal High Court in Abuja. That all of this blew up sometime in October of last year, and if found guilty, he faces up to 21 years in prison on multiple counts. So yeah, since the public outrage has continued to increase, there's been a lot of questions being asked with regards to how this happened in the first place. Nigerians are demanding transparency over how a fraudulent agency managed to bypass high-level, security screenings that are supposed to be institutionalized, secure the budget allocation, process salaries through the Central Bank of Nigeria. Civil society groups arguing that Adeyemi could not have penetrated these institutional fortresses without high-level internal collaborations. I think the presidency themselves have also agreed that there must be some sort of internal collaborators that helped Adeyemi to penetrate all the bureaucratic processes that he did. According to them, he's an impostor, even though some people raise doubts about that. So, yes, the presidency on Friday called on the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the Department of State Services, and the Nigerian Police Force to uncover alleged internal collaborators who enabled Adeyemi Adeni in the ongoing Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council scandal. There was a statement put out on X. The senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Temitope Ajayi, noted that the alleged cartel responsible for aiding Adeni in operating the alleged fictitious presidential agency must be unraveled. Says what is not in doubt is that internal collaborators enabled Adeni to get this far. That is precisely what investigators of the DSS, the police, and the EFCC must now unravel. Says the criminal network within the affected institutions must be dismantled and everyone found to have played a role should be arrested and prosecuted. Last week we talked about how a lot of opinions have come in that the chief of staff to the president should step down so that investigations into this will not be hindered by his office, since he's being fingered to be part of all of the conspiracy to fly this fictitious agency. The Senate are probably going to look at this tomorrow, according to the reports on the Punch. Senate meets tomorrow as this fake agency budget row deepens. People have asked questions whether or not the National Assembly did due diligence, scrutinize the budget, and approved it because this agency that is said to be fictitious got about 1.3 billion naira in allocations in the 2026 budget. So yeah, the Senate is expected to address controversy surrounding that allocation to this controversial council when they resume tomorrow. But then, like I said, Adeni Adeyemi has denied all of the allegations against him, saying that he was duly appointed by the chief of staff to the president. We'll play a clip from what he said directly so that you would hear from him.
The president has meritoriously served for good 20 years and rose from minority leader, majority leader, and then speaker for good 4 years. I mean, he rose to be the number 4 citizen of federal government of Nigeria. So the question becomes unavoidable. At what point in the process did reference to non-existent agency allegedly enter the official record? And if that are indeed present in an official documentation, what that implies about the integrity of the process that produced and approved those documents. For President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to assent his signature to a budget that includes a non-existent agency according to his chief of staff is an embarrassment to this advocating government. My distinguished media practitioner, when the question persists regarding administrative process, budget lines, and institutional communication allegedly connected to this agency, if it doesn't exist. The same acclaimed non-existent agency have domiciliary, pounds, and treasury single account, all domiciled in the central bank of Nigeria. So what Chief of Staff is telling Nigeria is that the CBN governor, with his 4 deputies, 16 capital directors, and over 5,300 staffs are flawless not to have dictated a fraudulent document for opening an account.
All right, Adeni trying to exonerate himself from all of the accusations coming from the presidency. But yeah, that's where we are. A lot of things have been said. The Ariwa think tank has urged President Bola Tinubu to ignore allegations against Gbaja-gate regarding all of this. Atiku Abubakar says it must be unraveled. Kwankwasia movement says the PFIPC scandal is all about public accountability and not about one man, so needs to be scrutinized and unraveled totally. So we'll delve into that conversation again this morning. Join us, promises to be interesting.
This morning, we are being joined by Dr. Chikezie Obasi, who is a public affairs analyst and a public health physician. Good morning, Dr. Obasi. Good to have you.
Good morning, Yagazi. Good morning,
Good
Good
morning,
morning,
Doc.
our listeners. Good morning, and our viewers too.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
I'm sure you've had a lot to read and listen to with regards to all of this controversy. Some people say it's one of the biggest controversies around the presidency or federal government in recent times. Is it? Because we've looked back at some other controversies, maybe the Nigeria Air controversy towards the ending of Muhammad Buhari's tenure in office as one other major scandal. But yeah, this is before us right now. What do you say about all of this? A lot of highly placed offices being fingered to have not done due diligence with regards to making sure that this kind of thing did not even occur in the first place. The head of service, the budget office, the accountant general's office, and all of that being pointed to have not done what they are supposed to do. What do you think? Is Adeni an impostor, or you believe the word coming out from the presidents?
If I believe the word coming out from the presidency, then I'm not an analyst. Well, that's
Okay,
the simple truth.
all right.
You need to listen to the other side of the story,
Mm,
and you need to, use your critical analysis to unravel what transpired.
okay.
There are so many things that cannot be, put together. In the first instance, on the presidency, they've actually claimed that Order 5 that was given to Adeyemi's parading was not issued by this regime. They claimed a whole lot of things. But the big question is, how did that um, that agency get budget allocation? That's the biggest question. Under which ministry did that agency get budget allocation? Who authorized the ministry the agency to submit its budget proposal? Who defended it within the presidency? For budget to get to National Assembly before ascension or approval, it must pass through the presidency. So who did work on that? Are they going to tell us that all these were done without, and you're talking about billions of naira
Mm,
and and then grants and probably loans. We don't know about loans.
Mm.
Are we coming on behalf of them? So to me, it's not surprising. If you cast your mind back, I remember P&ID. You see the whole scam started with the presidency, where there was not even a company, duly registered in Nigeria, and the whole thing ended up being a scam. So this is one thing that I would say a scam or a corruption case went wrong, and somebody has to bear the brunt.
mm,
I must tell you that if I have to think, I will lean my mind towards hearing what Adeyemi is saying. It's like a business gone wrong. Let's begin to unpack this.
yeah.
In the first instance, Adeyemi it's not you, it's not me.
Mm,
So you don't understand the intricacies of workings of government. And at that level of presidency, it's a high wired, environment in terms of security. I'll give you a typical example. If you've ever seen the document emanating from the office of the governor of Enugu State, and you see the paper, you know how secured that paper to reasonable extent is.
Mm.
And if you've ever seen one coming from the office of the president and you look at the logo,
mm,
you know that it is not something you just go by the roadside and get. But permit me to tell you that somebody could actually take away that same paper, from where it is and give you. But who is the person that does that work?
yeah.
That person must be within the presidency.
Okay.
That person must be within the environment to understand how to craft the letter, get the letterhead, and do whatever. Yes, federal government actually claimed that the letter the man is parading came from office of the chief of staff to the president, which is not, which does not normally issue such document out. It's from SGF. I quite agree with them. But the issue here is that in a democracy where we had seen that presidency may bypass the protocols,
Yeah.
and wouldn't for some of us the established protocols may not be adhered to in giving out instructions. We have seen um, people being sacked by the just announcement of SA to the president. We've seen altercation between the SGF and the presidency, even when a minister was gone, as to the reason why the minister left. We've seen discordant tones, you know, in the president. And even if we go far away, like the US, we've seen where a president goes on social media, and when you post something on social media, it becomes official,
Yeah.
you know. So you can see that if you don't know the intricacies and the workings within the government, but if somebody sees a document emanating from the chief of staff, and probably they've been working that way, they're bound to work within the what they see, think the government is want to work. And situation whereby we've heard Mr. President openly telling Nigerians that Baja is the landlord of Asurok. It becomes a difficult one for you to ignore. I want to believe that that may be an issue, may not be a problem for the accountant general and so on, if that cartel actually wants to work. Because for me, Mr. Adeyemi did not get those documents, get his budget allocation, get everything padded, and then approval from National Assembly without inner members. And he got approval. He said about 300
For 300
for
staff.
300 staff.
Yeah.
And then an office was allocated to him.
I think there were four staff given to him from the accountant general's office
So,
and all of that.
so let's look at it critically and ask ourselves, how did all this happen and the man was still fake? Correspondences went on. Letters were written. People got to understand. People, people must have verified all these stories they are talking about, having having a double, uh, with Ministry of External Affairs. I think Ministry of External Affairs. We are talking about having multiple functions that they went for clarification. Remember, Femi claimed that he wrote to police, I think, October last year.
October 17th.
And then had to remind them this year again. I remind them a second time. I mean, it could be true. Nobody knows those letters. But why were the letters not acted upon? Becomes the issue. So for me, I don't want to believe what Adeyemi is saying as entirely correct. I don't want to believe what Mr. Femi Gbaja-gate is saying as entirely correct. Yeah, the truth that if you come to the court of public opinion, there is more to this than meets the eyes. That's what I would say. And if we come to a situation where we know this is a corrupt, infested, regimes, I'm not just restricting to this regime. I'm restricting to multiple regimes. We saw where the Minister for Health said that he received only 36 million out of
218
billion that was supposed to be given to him. And then what happened to the other money? And you go to National Assembly to tell them that your budget performance was optimal. So what happened to, even if I counted 50%, so what happened to the other monies? Not even up to R1 billion. So we've seen where unaccounted money over the years, goes out of the government coffers, and nobody asks question. I have not seen where the National Assembly, it says let's examine what you gave you last year. I mean, like an audit, an open audit. It doesn't really occur. So you see that this is one of the businesses I can think. If you ask me honestly, this is a business that went wrong. This is a scam, a corruption that's been going on in the presidency that went wrong. Only that Adeyemi does not have, if at all he's saying the truth, I'm just borrowing his word. He has not given us a link, direct link, between him and what transpired between him and Gbaja-gate. So talking about going to a proxy, it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't have any evidence. Because that proxy, in a real sense, and I must say at this level that proxy could even be PA to Femi Gbaja-gate, which might not, which Femi might not even be in the know of whatever is going on. It's important that one clarifies and then gives somebody benefit of doubt. It could be possible that that proxy is saying does not even have anything dealing with Femi Gbaja-gate. Maybe the proxy is dealing with the so-called, in quote, a proxy from SGF, the chief of staff.
So you're basically saying that Adeni must have operated with internal collaborators.
That one is. I said something. If you had been operating alone, how did you get budget line? There's no. You know what it means to get budget line. Get to federal executive council. Can you insert your own through fake? Insert your own budget line into any state government. You know what it means. It's not as simple as ABCD. Accountant general will have to be there. Auditor general have to be there. People have to vet this. You under ministry before the executive handles your budget. You go to defend your budget within they have meetings. I hope you understand that. They are called, all the agencies on the ministry are called to present their budget. The budget is now scrutinized, but depending on how much they are going to be given, the accountant general will see it, auditor general will see it before they now said, okay, let's present it for the executive for ratification. So how did they get all the communication? They were internal collaborators. And until last year, remember you're talking about 2025, right? So they got a budget line of 2024. So until last year, what happened? Because last year, by the time Femi was writing those letters, budget for 2025 have been passed.
Mm.
So what happened? Offices have been allocated. So there must be an internal collaborator that is smoothing this job, which I don't know who the person is. I must say at this point, it is possible that Femi is not in the know of all this. But one thing is clear. One is that even by the words of Matthew Adeyemi, he paid 400 million
Mm-hmm.
to,
And would also pay 200.
and is ready to pay about to multiple 200. Issues cropped up when how to share the grants,
Take off grants.
the takeoff grant became very
27.3.
if for him to have said he paid money, it simply implies that he is fully aware that he was going into scam.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
But the issue now is, can you now link his alibi, within the presidency or within the government? Can he now say that this man was the person that was his third party and this is the man he was meeting within the government? And I think the man he says that was his proxy, he was dead in an
Yeah,
accident.
that in controversial
So he doesn't have
circumstances.
really question what evidence.
Mm.
He doesn't have an evidence. He doesn't have a collaborator.
All
So
right.
it becomes a difficult one for him.
So now it looks like media war. Even the president's senior special assistant on media said, and I quote him, Matthew Adeni understands Nigerian public psychology and he's exploiting it expertly to shield himself. He's an irredeemable con artist who is attempting to drag the name of the chief of staff to the president, Femi Gbaja-gate into his criminal enterprise. The chief of staff is simply his last straw. So yeah, it's like the words of the presidency against the words of Adeni at this point. So what should be the next step in making sure that we get to the root of this? Some people said, some reports said that the Senate will be looking into this tomorrow. Is that the first step now, or the next step now, in terms of unraveling all of this?
The truth of the matter remains that there are agencies that are, saddled with these responsibilities. Police is there,
Yeah.
the Senior National Assembly is there, then
DSS,
DSS
EFCC.
is there, they're all there. But these are government agencies. The fourth estate
Mm.
is equally there. I saw documents from Premium Times and I think Vanguard, the one you sent to me.
Yeah.
Years ago. But I believe that they need to go deeper into this. And like I said, Femi might be completely innocent of this. It is possible. But for the government to begin to defend this nonsense, if they are told us that at the point of, you know, collecting the budget allocations of these agencies, they discovered that Adeyemi was, fictitiously parading a fake, a fake agency. I would have been relaxed. This, you have actually allocated office to him. What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Within the government, it simply means you are so porous.
At the federal secretariat.
Yes, you are so
The second
porous.
floor, actually.
You are so porous. You can't defend. It's indefensible. How did an agency that does not exist get budget line?
Was able to operate
I mean,
accounts.
do you know what we are talking about?
Mhm.
Opened account with CBN, an agency that you didn't create, that does not exist. Even if you are overwhelmed, it opens up that there are lapses within the system. Even if you don't defend such indefensible. Rather, a person who is sound will go for soul searching. What an embarrassment. So what if there are multiple other agencies that have been operating over the years? And I remember this presidency, when he came, he said he was going to collapse a lot of
Yeah.
agencies,
Yes.
trying to prune them down. So what happened? Was that a good idea? Why did it fail? So for me, that the defense doesn't make sense. It doesn't exonerate. If you can exonerate Jabi, I don't want to have a problem with that. But you can't exonerate the government in the first thing. You can't exonerate the office of the SGF because those of the SGF is saddled with every official document the federal government has that will be go to ministries, agencies, and so on. So how did they give approval for giving this allocation? Is it possible that you created an agency that nobody went back to look
Look at.
look at?
Yeah, they've said themselves they did not create the agency in the first place. But is this the point where Femi Miller gets to step down
No, you
because
can't.
of this
No, it
investigation?
doesn't make any sense.
It
Why,
doesn't.
why
It
would
doesn't
you
make
say
any
so?
sense. It means that if I come tomorrow to say
I mean, he's indicted in this.
no, it's not indicted. It's not indicted. Somebody forged it according to him. The man even exonerated him.
Mm.
that he never dealt with Femi. He said he never dealt with Femi
Directly.
directly.
Yeah.
And the man that actually dealt with him, whatever he's saying by proxy, is dead.
Mm.
So there's no link between him and Femi. That's number one. The letter is parading didn't come from Femi. Femi has denied that letter. Femi had proven that he has written to police when it was alerted to his office that this man has a problem. Last year, he wrote to the police twice. So why would you go? It simply implies that I can get up one morning and say that Gagazie
Mm.
actually stole my phone in the office, and without asking question, he will be asked to step out. That's not. You must give a concrete indictment. The man had told us to say, okay, fine. And again, to make matter worse, the other five, they relied. I don't know. I've not seen the other five,
Mm.
but they said the other five was actually handled by Buhari in 2018. That this administration did not handle other five. So you can say that there has not been for me. There's no concrete evidence
Mm.
to hold down Femi. That does not mean that Femi
Is it?
might be innocent. But you've not gotten any concrete evidence. Assuming you had said this is the snapshot of where I paid, transferred money to Femi's account, or that so and so date I collected this thing. I went to his office and he gave it to me. Or I collected from his office. This is, the documentation where I signed that this happened, transaction happened. It never occurred. Let me tell you, if I'm giving an appointment today, before you receive that appointment, you must sign off. If you've ever gotten any document from any government office,
Mm.
the duplicate you will sign on the duplicate collected by me so and so date. So how could you have collected such a letter from SGF's office without a date? And it says by proxy. And on that strength, I will ask Femi to step down. That's not good.
Mm. Like you said, it was only after the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission had laid complaints about this particular council that the chief of staff, alerted the police with regards to it. Some people are saying that there is a lot of things that investigation that has to be done in terms of correspondences between the chief of staff and this particular councillor, maybe the National Assembly or maybe the office of the Accountant General with regards to assigning the office. They need to look through the papers and verify that things the man said or alleged about the chief of staff is either true or false. So he cannot continue to occupy the office while that investigation
No,
happens.
ideally, communication between agencies, ministries, and government goes through SGF.
The secretary.
That's why the secretary to the federal government allocated office to him.
Mm.
Mm.
So assuming he was able to get those correspondences and his proxy men or there was no due diligence, he could continue getting that. Now what transpired is when he had a problem, the agency, the Ministry of External Affairs, am I correct?
Yeah.
And now had to write probably the um to whoever to SSG chief of staff,
The National
national.
Security Advisor
Uh-huh.
and the Office of the Chief of Staff.
Yes, now to verify the authenticity, probably because he claimed that the letter came
Yeah.
from them,
Yeah.
and the letter ought to come from SGF
Instead of the Chief of
instead
Staff.
of the chief of
Mm.
staff. So assuming that was correct, and there was something that went wrong at that point, the chief of staff would have known that this has blown open, because once you have that communication, sometimes in civil service people will write you not to ask you a question but to indict you. Let me assume that somebody within the office is an accomplice, which is chief of staff was aware. At that point, the only option you would do is to say, I am not aware of this. After all, this was supposed to be the right channel. And he alerted the police. So he did the right thing. That's one side of it. Second side is that he might have not been aware of all this. And when he was written, genuinely and innocently, he wanted to protect government. Remember, um, journalist taught me something that no matter how you look at it, you must have to hear the two sides of the story.
Mhm.
Otherwise, if you pick a single story, you have a
to
problem.
balance your story.
You must balance your story.
Mhm.
So, and at this point, I want to say, look from the evidences before I've seen in the public domain. The man Adeyemi has not been able to accuse the chief of staff, give me a substantial evidence, except that a proxy collected this. And The problem we had was that I paid 400 million, remaining 200, and they had to share the remaining money.
Correct.
Was the issue? He never told us that these things were happening between him and chief of staff. And the proxy he's talking about is dead. How do we verify what he's saying?
That's
And
right.
I don't know if you get what I'm trying to point
Yeah,
out.
we need more detailed
So,
investigation. Those.
so the only persons that will come up with such detailed investigation are three sets of human beings. First, the security agencies. Second is National Assembly conducting an open, transparent, session with ADME. And then thirdly, is media, who could go to him and get the correspondences and know how he, first of all, how he got into the SSG, SGF, or SSG. Did SSG communicate with SGF to authenticate the approval of his agency? If that happened, then we can begin to indict the SSG at that point. But at this point, we don't know any of those.
But the question here is this: with all that is playing out, and a lot of persons wondering how he was able to get that allocation of 1.3 billion naira in the 2026 Appropriation Act, one would question what's playing out. Wouldn't you term it as an abuse of public finance and institutional corruption, as already stated by Atiku?
No, the issue there is very simple.
Because
They have about
a lot,
500 and some.
because there will be a lot of questions as to if something of this nature is playing out. Maybe there may be other agencies of this nature also playing
That's
out
what I'm
in
trying
this
to say.
current
That what
administration.
what what the media man should have done was to have gotten that following this discovery of this scam, that the federal government will look inward to sanitize whatever is going on, and they probably build a robust um, system, an IT system that will track every of government agencies. Because I mean, I just mentioned P&ID, a company that does not exist.
Mm.
We within the presidency, somebody went to London and defended that Nigeria should pay reparation from money from the government of Jonathan, and they got an award. A company that never existed. It took intervention of Buhari and then Malami, the past minister for justice, am I correct, and Attorney General of the Federation, to unravel that this company never existed. The company was not even registered. Talk more of having anything. And at that time, they were going to collect about $13 billion from Nigeria. So I can imagine that. So a company that does not exist at all could do that, and in collaboration with those within the presidency. We didn't get to hear that because maybe Buhari felt, why should I disturb the outgone leadership of the Nigeria? So they just, but come to think of it, somebody went to, they defended the nonsense. And it happened because Buhari probably looked at it, the money was too much, I can't pay this money. And then decided to look for other mechanisms. And because they knew that heavy crimes are committed within the presidency, they had to look for the fundamentals of the company to discover that the company in the first instance was not existing. So it's like that. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to point out.
Yeah.
You see, a lot of issues happen within the government. So that's why I say, if I were to be the 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 the, the SA or the media,
SSG.
the media,
Okay.
you will be able to say, look, this issue is a government, it's a whole government. In fact, if you ask me, I think I will lay the blame more on SGF, because the allocation of the building happened, between him and the secretariat. He issued the SSG is SGF is interested in will be the recruitment of those workers or the staff, about 300 of them, must come through him. So the big question is, does it mean that he doesn't have the approval of all the agencies that this government, inaugurated?
And it shows that he didn't meticulously do his job.
And that's why I say
Mm.
we've not seen any correspondence between the SSG,
Yeah, the SGF.
SGF.
Mm.
Sorry, I'm just calling the state government
Mhm.
SGF, and then chief of staff. Assuming there had been a correspondence, we would have begun to collaborate the story of Adeyemi.
But then, who handles everything that has to do with regards to the office of the presidency when it comes to allocations and budgets for it? Because the information gathered was that 1.3 billion was allocated to this particular presidential agency. it went through, the Senate. I think the Senate said they handled everything concerning the office of the presidency together as a whole. Not they did not compartmentalize it. Pick out one and the other
Everybody in Abadan also.
to scrutinize, right? And Adeyemi himself did not even appear before, the Senate Committee on Establishment and Public Service to defend the budgets of 1.3 billion naira in the first place. So when the National Assembly decides to look at this tomorrow, like the senator said that they would look at it, so what are they going to be asking themselves in terms of questions, in terms of, because they are, another
That is the
arm of government, isn't
that
it?
is the that is the terrible act of being a rubber stamp National Assembly or State Assembly. Everything there with a square stamp. This is the outcome.
Yeah.
Because ideally, if you look at it critically, the chief of staff to the president, where does he actually, which role does he play officially? You have the permanent secretary, you have the permanent secretary to the office of the president, or the office of the governor, as the case may be. The way you bring some of these things and then combine, of course, if you say the agency is under the chief of staff, it's possible because there are some of the agencies that are directly under the presidency. It could be possible that maybe the letter he saw or the SGF saw, actually made him to feel this agency is directly under the presidency. But we need to know, was there a communication? Because beyond the budget line, I'm thinking of other things that have been going on there. You gave allocation, vehicles are there, extra codes you are given, office of the CBN was utilized.
He even traveled to Canada, the SGF office, put up that communication that enabled him to travel to Canada to
So how
represent
did all this
Nigeria
happen?
at
These
some
are
point.
issues that we cannot, because I can tell you the next you see that the police are taking into custody and the court remanded him for further investigation, and we will not hear the matter. But these are issues that the press should be able to unravel now. The communication links, and I must tell you, the security agencies may not be able to unravel it, because security agencies is an apparatus or the executive.
Yeah.
The head of the executive is the president, the chief of staff, and then the vice. They now invited others. I called them. I mentioned chief of staff here because somewhat chief of staff of to every government is like a mini president in that government. He is a person that sees the president, without protocols. He can do a whole lot. He sees him, they discuss unofficial things and turn it to official. Every other person will come in officially, including the SSG, the minister, the SGF, the ministers, and so on. So I want to mention that SSG in any government is very critical. It's part of the president. It's like my boy or my guy. I'm going to go and sit down here and then make sure that you oversee these issues to me. So we need to understand what transpired there. Now, the police is part of that executive. So any report the government doesn't want, they kill it. The 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 what's it called? The National Assembly. Remember, they said there are three arms of government. They didn't say they are not part of government. It is that they are just three arms. So the National Assembly happens to be an arm of government that must protect the government. After all, they have a problem here. How come you allowed an agency you did not approve of, to have a budget line? Do you understand? So there was no due diligence. So somewhat you're going to see that somewhat it may not be as beyond what the president wants them to do. Then the only unbiased people I see is the media, and that's why you need now to do some investigations using freedom of information. I know there are so many of them who are eggheads that would actually begin to ask these critical questions.
All right. So what the media so far has been able to establish is a lot of communication between this agency, fictitious agency, and the office of the secretary
To the
to
federal
the
government,
government of the
federation.
federation, and communication, official communication between the National Assembly, both the Senate and the House of Representatives, and this particular agency that is fictitious. There's also an established communication between the Office of the Accountant General and this agency, but we've not
Linked it to SGF,
to the
chief of staff,
chief of staff.
and that's what I'm trying to
Nothing
point
has
out.
been linked to the chief of staff directly for now, as investigations continue. But we'll see what unravels in
If
the
you can't link
communities.
anything to him,
Yeah.
you can't indict him.
All right. Would
Because the only man that this guy is saying as at now
mm,
that has anything to do with him is dead.
we'll go for our news break. When we return, we'll continue this conversation. Thank you so much, Dr. Obasi.
Good morning and welcome to Urban Radio News Update in 94.5 seconds. I am Chioma Onwasomba. The Anambra State Police Command has said the ongoing impounding of vehicles with tinted windows is part of a security operation aimed at addressing rising insecurity and preventing criminals from exploiting such vehicles. The leadership crisis rocking the Anambra State chapter of the All Progressives Congress APC took a fresh twist yesterday with an executive led by Ifeanyi Osewu taking over the party's state secretariat to assume control of the party structure. The Chief of Army Staff, Wadi Shuaibu, has expressed confidence that troops will safely rescue the 39 school children and 7 teachers abducted from schools in Oyo State, disclosing that military operations are making steady progress. The Senate has defended the passage of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Alteration State Police Bill 2026, insisting that 84 of the 109 senators voted in support of the bill during its clause by clause consideration. The federal government has condemned the killing of 2 more Nigerians in South Africa, warning that it may be forced to take diplomatic action if the continued attacks on its citizens are not halted. In sport, the Super Falcons of Nigeria will open camp in Morocco on July 15 ahead of their title defense at the 2026 Women's World Cup of Nations. On entertainment, veteran actor Bob Manuel Udoku has shared his opinion on why Nigerian male actors struggle more financially than their female counterparts, claiming that life is generally easier for women than men. You're up to the minute in 94.5 seconds. I am Choma Omasomba. From the capital of the Southeast to the world.
Welcome back. Still the urban parliament this morning, going back to the Gbaja-gate scandal. Wajibamila Adeni Adeyemi are in the eyes of the press right now with regards to this scandal involving the Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council, which Adeni claimed he was Director General of. It's now gotten to the point where the presidency has denied any such council and have charged Adini to court. Nigerians are asking for clarity with regards to what's happened. How did this agency get allocations in the budget? How did it get an office at the Federal Secretariat? These are the questions. But what are your thoughts? Dr. Chikezi Obasi has spoken to us, but we'll open up the phone lines for parliamentarians to join us.
0916 0005945 0916 0005945 or 0916 Those are the numbers for you to call, and you could also send in messages to our WhatsApp line. It's 09128 945 945. And we're live on Facebook. It's www.facebook.com/Urban Radio 945. Go there and drop your comments. Hello, good morning. 0916 0005945. Good morning. Yes, good morning, Dr. Narado.
Good morning.
Thank you. Amen.
Council, yeah.
Yes.
Foreign intervention.
Foreign Intervention Promotion Council.
There. Yeah.
Yes.
Talk too much about.
Mm.
How do you? Okay. What did I say?
All right.
All right.
Mm.
All right.
So if we want to get things done in Nigeria straight, it's just that corruption is everywhere. Even the man, in a right sense, if you accuse the chief of staff to the president, you accuse the president.
All right.
If the president was different, he can actually proceed and leave himself.
Okay.
And allow the president to look up. But we know that at the end of the day, like people say, another matter will crop up by tomorrow or next tomorrow. And we'll face that side and this one will be swept under the carpet. Otherwise, I call on Nigerian government to institute a panel of inquiry into this matter. So they should go to court to suspend this proceeding in the court. Let us have the initial panel of inquiry to thoroughly examine this matter in the interest of public accountability and transparency.
All right, Dr. Narado.
Existed in Nigeria. Good morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
For the time.
Thank you, Dr. Narado, for calling in 0916 0005945. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Chama.
Good morning.
And good morning, Yagazir.
Good
And
morning.
good morning, my friend, Dr. Abbas.
Good morning, sir.
I don't think I have any other thing to say, but I was not happy when my friend Abbas was emphasizing that the Femi Gbaja-gate, which is the Femi gate, Gbaja-gate,
Gbaja-gate.
has nothing that he cannot step aside. Who told you? Am I not hereditary? If you have such a thing, your name is mentioned, you have to face disciplinary committee. First of all, you will step aside. You have to proceed or leave first. Or you step aside. Because if you are there, you will, how do I go? You will influence the panel. The judge, I mean, what the panel and what they will be doing. He has to step back. He has not to wait. But the fact that, what will you have a budget that was approved by the National Assembly? How did he get to the Matthew Adeyemi?
All right.
It passed through him. And then there are a lot of, in fact, let us just, there are things we don't want. Let us not watch our destiny.
All right, Sir Bernard.
Because the international communities are just watching, waiting to see how we will handle that matter.
All right.
Let us be very careful with that matter.
All right.
Let us not beat it. Let us allow everything to take place.
All right, Sir Bernard. Thank you for calling in 0916 0005945. Good morning. Yes, good
Good morning.
morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
About your kind of one, and I go for book and I'm not. The issue is that let someone not make us to think that it's pathetic what APC is doing of the Nigeria. There's no way Gbaja-gate should not step aside. It's not a crime if any Nigerian resigns to position, and there are not proper investigation to be on. I don't know whether this is in our DNA that nobody that can ever resign, whatever is investigated, whatever he does wrong. It's the DNA system of Nigeria. I don't know, it's not a position. I don't know why. And they are fantastically corrupt. As the American president told us, Nigerian politicians are fantastically corrupt. Or is it the prime minister of he said it. So this is that we have corrupt people around us. Around the corridors of power. There are many. Only that this one came out. Okay, the man, the other head died so suddenly. Why must he die under this situation? The last year in Kaduna, how the man died. The man that spoke the truth about his question in Santa Kaduna. Then also all sorts of things that the governor was involved, very fast. And the man certainly was in the turn that he died in prison. Just to shock the man. And that is what they did to this man. And the man suddenly died in the hotel. Said that hotel gone. This is that, as my brother said, my brother that just spoken, he said that this man was done about Abila. So allow proper investigation on this and go to court. It's not the way out. Your court will stop everything about the result that will come out of this. You know how our court works. to repeat many things. That information needs to come and help us this investigation. That people that are neutral, yeah.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Karimo, for calling in. We'll go for a quick commercial break and return. We'll take more calls. So stay with us in Parliamentarians.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name
105 Urban Radio. And today we're looking at the Biamila scandal that's concerns about the DG of a phantom agency called the Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council, Prince Adeni Adeyemi, looking at the controversies surrounding this purported agency and what has been emanating. The senator says that they will sit down and look at the allegations that has been leveled against Adeni. And we're taking calls from our parliamentarians this morning. We still have Dr. Chikezi Obasi, who has critically x-rayed these issues. We are taking calls from our parliamentarians this morning, 0916 0005945 or 0916 0004945. Sending messages to our WhatsApp line is 09128 945945. On your live on Facebook, it's www.facebook.com/Open Radio 945. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning. Good morning.
And it will be swept under the carpet.
All right.
No, it cannot continue and it shouldn't continue. Please, is my name. I come from Enugu. Remember?
Elder, thank you. Remain blessed. 0916 0004945. Keep those calls coming. 0916 0004945. You can send in a message on WhatsApp 09128 Hello? Hello? The noise coming from this thing. Hello? Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome.
Surprise. There was no way. This thing is, Nigerians are calling, millions of Nigerians are calling for the resignation of the chief of staff. He should resign. Every other person that is, that's the normal thing, the most normal. Whether his hands are not in it, whether he's part of it or not. As long as it's mentioned, he should resign. But afterwards, they're now rushing to see how they are rushing to the court because they know they have taken over the court. So they don't want. It's like there's no way they can resurrect themselves. Nigerians don't even trust them anymore. So these things, the clear thing is that it's a perfect way of siphoning our money. They are channels. This one just got sour. It just exposed them. So how about the 200 trillion that went into TF? From the NNPC. Has anybody said? So the anti-incident, you see, the president is it's anti-incident. So for us, every person that works under him, we're not supposed to be clean. They are all dirty. Because considering the anti-incident of the president, we
heard about the billion van incident some years back. Yeah, I mean, it's just a mess. So we just keep talking. God will deliver us someday.
All right. Thank you. Good morning. Hello. 0916 0004945. We have a couple of messages on WhatsApp. We'll take a look at some of them.
Okay. Good morning, Yagazi, Choma, and your guest. My heart goes out to Choma on the demise of her dad. On the issue at hand, I'm so glad that this government is the one destroying itself. May this scandal consume bad governance in Nigeria. Peter from Abakaliki. Thank you, Peter. More messages here on our WhatsApp line. Good morning, the urbanized Yagazi, Dr. Basi, and Choma. Choma, take heart to the death of your father, Waji from Okana. Thank you. On the issue at hand, I wish to see that Nigeria has become a country of 1 week, one trouble, and the moment another problem comes up, the problem of the previous week is swept under the carpet, especially where those involved in the problem belong to the power bloc. This present scam will still go without answers like the other ones. The monkey, like the other ones, example, the monkey and python swallowing money, the better Edu and the gender affairs, the ex-governor of Kogi and numerous of others. If Adeyemi had paid the 200 million naira, these issues wouldn't have come to the open. I weep for Nigeria. More messages here on our WhatsApp line. Yagazi and Choma, good morning. James Ngene from Nkano West local government area. This case is synonymous to the monkey and python swallowing money in this country. Any evil that hasn't happened in this country cannot exist. May God help us. Okay, good morning, Urban Radio. Chama, please, condolences once again on the passing of your dad. Thank you. I totally disagree with your guest this morning on his submissions. There is no way Wajabi Amila would not be aware of what was going on, assuming, but not agreeing that he was not. He still needs to step aside for reasons of laxity for proper investigation done. Even if the proxy is dead, if the authorities want to get to the bottom of the matter, forensic experts can still unravel the accounts, all the money, and let us know who owns them. Let us not talk as if we do not know that in such matters, highly placed politicians use SPVs and proxies to operate and quickly deny them immediately a problem comes up. Joseph from Enugu. Thank you, Joseph. Okay, this one says, good morning, Yakazi Chairman, your guest, Comrade Ejikonu from Ngo. On the fake agency saga of Prince Adeni Adeyemi Matthew and the Chief of Staff to President Bola Tinubu, Femi Wajabiamila, this is a high level of corruption and a witty allegation that needs a thorough and unbiased investigation. And the Senate will tomorrow have a session with Prince Adeyemi. Let there be a transparent and unbiased session. And I call on the Chief of Staff to step down to enable an independent investigators to unravel the circumstances beyond the fake agency. But my question to Dr. Abasi is, what is the position of CBN on this fake agency opening accounts with CBN? Thanks, Urban Radio. Comrade Ejikoni from Go. Happy New Week, Urban Radio. Okay, these are the messages on our WhatsApp line this morning.
Hello. Good morning. Let's take a few more calls. Yeah. Good morning.
Welcome, Chukudi.
To exonerate himself from this anything. Let there be
Thank you for calling in. We'll take messages, some messages that are on our WhatsApp line. This one is coming from Wakibe. It says, Wajabi Amila and Adeni Saga permit me to say that government of President Tinubu should not take sides by defending itself of wrongdoing, but should, however, set up a high-powered investigators to carry out full investigations on the appointment of Adeni, including allocation to that office, and by extension, appraisal of all other agencies to ascertain the genuineness of such agencies that exists. Finally, all the stories surrounding the saga are speculative and media trial, as its only holistic investigation of this matter will unravel the truth. Okay, good morning, Yagazi Chairman, the analyst in the house. This is Grey Joy writing from Atara Layout. Regarding Prince Adeni's case with the fraud agency, I believe taking the matter to the Senate for investigation is still the wrong approach. The senators are aligned with the president's agenda and have declared they shall stand on his mandate. Given that, how can we expect justice to prevail in this case? Chief of Staff Wajabi Amila to step down for proper investigation. Okay, good morning, Agazi Chairman, and to your guests in the studio. Chairman, my sincere condolences on the passing of your dad. May he so rest in peace. Thank you. Eke Henry Chin also texting from Isude says the more the story unfolds, the more questions Nigeria should be asking. If the presidency says Adeni was never appointed, then how did he allegedly operate from a government office? Who approved the office? Who gave him access? Who worked with him? Who introduced him at official events? These things don't just happen overnight. If public funds or allocations were released, signed the approvals, government money does not simply leave the treasury without due process. Nobody noticed for months, then that exposes a serious weakness in our institutions. On the other hand, if Adeni insists his appointment was genuine, then he should present every document and piece of evidence in court. That is the best place to clear his name. This case should not end with one person taking the blame. The investigation must uncover the complete truth. If there was forgery, everyone who helped make it possible should be held accountable. If there was official backing, Nigerians deserve to know who authorized it. This is bigger than one man. It's about accountability, transparency, and restoring public trust in government. To take a message here on our Facebook page, this one is coming from Destination B Song. It says, let's get to the bottom of this. The truth needs to come out. Gbaja-gate scandal is just the tip of the iceberg. We need clarity on on many more things. A texting from Boki local government area in Cross River State. And Omaga Namani says, good morning, my fellow parliamentarians. The bribery scandal against Wajabi Amila should be thoroughly investigated, and if found wanting, should be compelled to face the wrath of the law. We get back to you, Dr. Chikeziel, as you've heard our parliamentarians who called and the messages that were sent. Let's get your reactions and concluding remarks as well.
Mhm. Okay, first of all, thank you, our listeners. In the first instance, there are two sides to this. One is the emotional part, which many people would want to see, and that is because Fimbo Miller has been, mentioned, and probably because he has not been the best of persons in the eye of the people, you would want him to resign.
Best of persons in the eye of the people.
Yes,
How
the,
would you say
of
so?
course, he represents this government to a reasonable extent. So there's no voice. Anybody that has a lot to do with Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Nigerians wouldn't like the person, including me. Because if you think you're suffering, it's only for you. It's for everybody. And anybody that represents this government cannot be said to be the best of person before the eye of people. That's one. But that is beyond that. You begin to look at what you want to occur, what want to happen, and what the law says. In the first instance, there's no legal any rule that says Femi must resign because he was accused. But let's look at it the other flip this other side of the coin. What if he's innocent? Is there even one chance of his being innocent of all this? So why must you ask him to resign when you have not gotten a clear indictment on him? And remember what I said there could be people working within his office. I said it clearly. There could be, he could have been the person that even masterminded all this. But we need to get a clear link. Just one clear link is enough for him to resign. And I said it clearly that even the newspapers actually do that. So, but when you do not have a link, I don't support that because I could be in a position tomorrow where somebody would accuse me of, and because of just accusation, you tell me to resign. I can't afford, I can tell you.
But can he go on administratively?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's the president would approve of that.
Okay.
Okay.
because that's what some people are saying,
That
not
presidency would
necessarily
approve of
so
that.
that so that investigations
But
will.
I can tell you again that it doesn't need even to be there for institutions to occur. Even if he stays there and there is a thorough, if the president wants to unravel anything, he could be in that office and he will provide every evidence they need. That's if the president wants him to do that. Of course, if there are correspondences between him and SGF and the office, they will provide it. They are documented, and that's what I'm talking about. I don't know if you get what I'm going to point out. So
Yeah.
there must be an evidence. I want to see that credible evidence. In as much as I may not like even the style of their government, but I must be clear to say that look, you cannot just because of somebody accusing somebody without a clear, tangible evidence ask the person to resign. Otherwise, almost all of us will one day resign from our jobs because you might be. In fact, we have seen lecturers that have been accused. For example, that happened in Nnamdi Azikiwe University. If you remember, if not because somebody was caught in camera, the girl has run to say that the man, and the next would have been hearing is the man should first of all the university should suspend him. But because of that evidence, I could say that was the slightest chance. It's less than 1% opportunity. We saw that the man was innocent. But I can tell you if there was no evidence, what everybody would have been shouting was the man should resign. The man should step aside. So in that case, that's why I say, even if it is one chance, you create that opportunity that innocent person should not be punished because of that chance. I'm not saying that Femi is in any way, innocent. Then secondly, mm, the P&ID, I said it was not a registered company. Somewhat, I'm just trying to clear up Chief Anarado. P&ID was not registered in Nigeria. It's a registered company in UK. If I have my data, but it's not registered in. It was not registered in Nigeria. So and that's the basis. They voided whatever. They began the investigation because I remember that the then chief not called the Attorney General of the Federation had to begin to look and investigate the criminal. They found out that it wasn't registered, and whatever $40 million they were supposed to invest, they didn't invest. So it was on that basis that they obtained, they contact the company had in the first instance. But it was registered in Britain, I think under one Virgin something. So that was the basis how they got judgment in UK. But in Nigeria, the company was not registered. It was not found within the incorporated into Nigerian, Corporate Affairs Commission. So, but on this matter as a whole, I believe that a whole lot, if the president wants to be firm and decisive, a whole lot has to be learned from this. First is a fictitious company, a fictitious agency by the presidency. You gave a budget to it. Everybody in that lineup is indicted, down to the National Assembly. That's my own stance on it. Everybody from the office of the Accountant General of the Federation, the office of the budget and planning,
Yeah.
to the office of the SGF, to the office of Chief of Staff, to the presidency. How did you allocate a whooping sum of billions of naira to an office you turned out to say is fictitious? One. Number two, how many of the fictitious offices do we have in the country?
Exactly.
If we have almost 500 and something agencies, I don't know if parastatals and agencies, I don't know if they pruned it down to what we are talking about. But how many of them are real and how many of them are fake? Is it possible that people have been cashing out this way over the years? It costs for me. That's why I say the media man that quickly ran to defend Femi Gbaja-gate was wrong. What they should have done was to look at have a sober reflection. How is it that we have such a porous government that people could, you know, uh, forge a document and operate agencies, parastatals, without due authorization? Then it calls again, what's accountability of presidency after the demise of a president? I mean, after the exit of an office of the president. For example, has anybody taken a look at the forensic analysis of what happened under President Buhari? Does it mean that the budget we all clamor for may have actually not been appropriated, as it's supposed to be? Because for me, if this money had gone into this fictitious agency,
Yeah.
it simply means that nothing. And again, is it possible that these agencies could have collected loans, used, and Nigeria paid back the loan as, I mean, as a fictitious agency, how do you begin to pay such loans? Is it possible that they could engage into bilateral discussion and even sign agreement for on behalf of Nigeria and fictitious agencies? So it borders, for me, it borders beyond whether Adeyemi is a criminal or whether Femi Gbaja-gate is a criminal to a whole package of presidency. What security hold does the presidency have on the presidency and these offices of the president? That is a very serious issue to me. If we could see one of these, how many of them? If we could, assuming if there was no issue, if I follow the line of Ade, if there was no issue in terms of sharing formula between him and Femi and so on, it means that probably this year they would have gotten another budget. Next year they will get another until 2031. So how many people have done that?
That's a huge conundrum.
You understand what I'm trying to point out? So my own take is very simple. Why this goes on, I think the more important thing is, can the presidency, can National Assembly members, can those in authority begin to look at the lapses? Whether Femi Gbaja-gate forged the signature or whatever it is, it means there's no checks and balances within the presidency. Let me assume that this letter emanated from Femi Gbaja-gate. Does it mean they could actually create parastatals and agencies by themselves without authorization of the president himself? Because that's what it means. It means that people are operating government within the government.
Right.
I don't know if you go on. So for me, this labs opens beyond this Femi Gbaja-gate into other things. Even at state level, we've seen contracts, we've seen criminal actions passing through the government without due processes. Maybe we sit down to talk, but there are people that are milking the system dry. Do you understand? So I think that is what it calls for, an overhaul. It calls for transparency at the presidency.
All right.
I'm not interested in Femi, because if Femi was an accomplice of the crime, maybe the presidency, if he's equally an accomplice of the crime, they might have a way of, protecting this. But it calls for Nigerians to begin to ask, can we have a more transparent system in the governance? That's the way I look at it.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you very
Bassey.
much.
Like Dr. Narada said, we need a judicial panel of inquiry into all what this controversy is about. Let's unravel the details. Nothing should be hidden from Nigerians. We should see to the end of this. Thank you so much, parliamentarians, for joining us in this conversation. I believe it will continue until maybe there are some, decisive things, decisions made, and
We do hope it won't be swept
results
under
from the
the carpet.
investigations.
Yeah, we do hope it won't be swept under the carpet. Just like one person mentioned, that maybe another case we may erupt, and then we forget about this one, and it goes like that. Because for Atiku, he says that he described this as not just accounting discrepancy, but a constitutional, legal, and moral scandal that needs to be resolved. Thank you so much, dear parliamentarians, for your active participation on today's session of the Urban Parliament. We reconvene tomorrow 9 a.m. for another critical conversation on issues of national importance. Until then, keep it locked to 94.5 Urban Radio Enugu. I am Choma Onwansonba.
I'm Yagazi Obiwanne Ozalo. Good morning.
Good morning.
Bye.